Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. And if you do not know what 4 out of 5 people agree with, you might find out by the end of this episode. Aram is shaking his head in disgust, as usual, with my introduction. And I'm excited about having our guest. He pretends to be a doctor. I did read that conversation you had with somebody.
Oh, that troll.
So I could have Dr. Sean Pastuch tell us about a troll of his because he is a doctor, but not doctor enough for some people.
Right. I think it's a worthwhile starting point. So what happened was somebody didn't like something that I was posting about on someone else's. Actually, I wasn't even in the comment section yet. My friend Pat Barber made a video about a post that I made that he thought was wrong. I love it when people do that.
So your buddy called you out and said you were wrong?
Oh yeah. He sent me a text message. He's like, "Hey, I recorded this YouTube video. I hope you're cool with me releasing." I'm like, "Dude, go for it. I don't care what you say in it. Just release it."
And I have seen enough of your encounters with different people to see that. And that's one thing that always jumped out at me that I really respect about you. It's like, hey, we totally disagree right now. Let's talk.
Yeah, well, and most people don't want to do that with me. Pat is one of the rare who would actually have the real-time conversation. Most other people like to throw their darts from a different room and then close the door really fast.
Yeah.
So this guy got into the comment section and basically wrote something to my friend Pat that said, gotta love it when people put doctor in their Instagram handle just to get, credibility or whatever it was. And they're not, and then you go to Google and find out they're not even a real doctor. They're just a chiropractor. And I was going to say I would often leave that alone, but that's not true about me. I don't like to leave the first punch.
Are you a doctor?
I was a chiropractor. I wouldn't make up.
Right. But people also don't fucking understand the difference between an MD, a DO, a DC.
100%.
Like nobody understands that.
So here's the interesting thing, right? His Instagram handle listed him as an MD. Right. And he was like, "Oh, they don't list what kind of a doctor they are. And then they slurp for credibility." And I'm like, well, it's pretty ironic that someone with MD in their title would say that. And I wanted to make sure I responded to it because I was like, the reason why I have it in my profile still, even though I haven't practiced since 2017, is because people like you don't open up the doors to rooms where important conversations are being had unless I have the doctor in front of my name. And then I get a sentence. And if that sentence is worthwhile, I get a second one. And if the second one is worthwhile, I have the opportunity to make relationships. And if the relationships are worthwhile, I get to have influence. And if I didn't have the doctor in front of my name, people like you write me off as unimportant, not valuable, useless. And so every coach reading this thread should take note that you look right down your nose at them.
Yeah.
That was my response to him. And then he tried to justify it. And I was like, look, man, I get it. You didn't mean to do that. And I'm not upset by it. It was a dumb fucking thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you did it.
I think discourse is so important. And I think it's a lot of people on Instagram right now are arguing about really arbitrary, nuanced things that don't apply to most people. And we just talked about this on our last podcast. And then there's also a lot of people on Instagram who do have, I think there's it's Barbell Medicine. I forgot who the fucking guy's name is, but I think he's like a CrossFitter who's also has an MD but doesn't practice. We see so many different people with so many different conditions being coaches that no, we're not doctors. We don't pretend to be doctors, but at least we're on the front line of healthcare. I don't care how you slice it.
You're speaking Sean's language right now, and you say things like that.
It depends on who we're talking about and how we're talking about them, because there's people on the front line who are doing work, and there's people on the front line who are just taking bullets and not actually provide. I guess there's some value to that for somebody, but it's not the value that they want to be on the front line providing. The reason why I like getting into discourse is because I see bullies everywhere. And the person who I see getting bullied is the one who most needs the education, the support, and the guidance from the industry who they're seeking it from, all of whom are telling them different things because all of them want to be the solution for everybody, instead of saying, hey, if this is the little descriptor of you, then what I'm about to say is perfect for what you're looking to achieve, and you should listen. If you're not in this box, pay no attention to me. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the marketplace gets confused, they get overwhelmed, taken advantage of, and the industry becomes commoditized. And then we have this song and dance that we're the healthcare industry and the doctors aren't actually doing their job, when the reality is neither are we collectively.
Yeah,
No,
you've
agree.
posted a lot about that though over the past year or so, about trainers, people in the gym kind of being that, I forget exactly how you phrased it, not like kind of like the in between, but in with the healthcare system.
So I said, what I said is that active life is bridging the gap between fitness
Yes.
and healthcare,
Bridging the gap,
and that the healthcare clinic of the future is a gym,
yeah. Yep.
and the healthcare provider of the future is a coach.
Mhm.
Those are the things that I have said. And I've changed the language, because what ended up happening was I got a bunch of people behind me who were super excited about what I was saying, and they misunderstood what I was saying. I had to go back and say, I'm not talking about you. Just because you got a weekend certification,
Yeah.
and you're a full-time something else, and you coach when it's convenient for you, doesn't mean that you are the bridge between fitness and healthcare.
Yeah. When I see your guys' stuff, I'm like, I cannot help people the way that you help people with like the gym that you're building and the stuff that you have. I would definitely need, and I acknowledge that, much more training to get to that.
But speaking to you specifically, you're a full-time phys ed teacher.
Yeah.
There isn't a more important bridge to be built than the one with our kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
They're learning how to squat now.
well, we can have a conversation about that. But
That's
but
not
I'm making
important.
sure that they do significantly more than their body weight. So
yeah,
we
perfect,
could
great.
yeah.
As long as they're risking injury for the sake of having a PR, we're good. No, but like I lobbied my local school, what do you call it? School board for more phys ed. And for meaningful phys ed. Like, don't just roll the ball out.
It's so ass backwards. I want to blow my brains out on a regular basis with public education, and I'm really trying.
Hope you don't do that.
I'm waiting. Like I said last week, I'm waiting for a meteor to land on me. I don't want to actually do the killing. I just want the world to fold in on itself, and I want to watch it.
Interestingly enough, tonight is the best night of the year to see a meteor shower.
Oh, is it going to come?
Excellent.
Is it going to come to Jersey and Long Beach?
It's 30 to 40 per hour, apparently.
Oh, you'll be fine. You should get hit. Odds are in your favor to get hit by one. You'll be fine. Just get out there in the middle of the Jersey Turnpike and take your shot.
That's it.
What was the school's response when you brought that up? I remember you, and I remember it because I was following you then during the last couple of years with COVID. And you talked going to the board meetings for all kinds of different stuff, and I loved seeing that kind of stuff. You know, doing those things that a lot of people talk, but don't actually show up to those things. Yeah. So what was the response?
I would be overstating my impact to say I did this. The response from a significant group of parents who were in alignment was that they doubled the amount of phys ed.
The school did.
Yes.
Wow. Like at all grade levels?
Yeah. So it went from once every 6 days to twice every 6 days.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because I'm in New Jersey. It's 5 days a week.
It should be 5 days a week.
Yeah.
We were once every 6, and then there's what they call unstructured play or unstructured recess. And the way that they get away with, like, state whatever is they put a certified whatever in the room, and now they're technically in gym, even if they're not.
That's how our elementary level, they get elementary in New Jersey, they get phys ed once a week, but then the recess that they have every day, that is part of health and phys ed. And then if they talk about hygiene or something like that, that's part of health and phys ed. So they get their minutes per week.
That's what we had. And so the goal was to stop doing that, to stop pretending that those things are equivalent. And to the parents' credit and to the school board's credit, they doubled it. They figured out how to double it. And now the question is, how do we double it again? But we got our foot in the door.
And then do you know anything about how, like, maybe the high school curriculum has changed and from the perspective of meaningful phys ed?
I don't. I have, I'm a solve the problem I understand.
Yeah.
And I understand what my kids who are 3, 5, and 7 are experiencing.
Yeah.
And, I understood it before my kids got into school. So I was able to start attacking it before they were even there. I'll get to the high school
when they
in
do.
time for them to get to the high school.
Yeah.
It's just it sucks that it's only the physical education part, and there really is no formal curriculum on it, even just basic nutrition. And that would be nice to be able to implement to some extent, even just
We
to have
have-
somebody like a
Well,
Jimmy do that type of thing.
Yeah, like we
So-
we have at our school, like freshman year, they have, but it's taught by people who just don't fully understand it. They're talking about carbohydrates and this and all these things that aren't applicable. The student doesn't know how to apply, and they don't care as a freshman.
They're also teaching the wrong person. So
Yeah.
at the wrong time. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you mentioned that I walk the walk that I talk. I went to the school board last year and I was like, look, we need to improve the health of our students. We need to get these foods out of the school lunches and out of the vending. We can't have vending machines that sell shit and say that we're for kids' health. And so they asked me to join a committee, steering committee, which basically is where good ideas go to die.
Yes.
So I did it for the year. And when nothing came of it, I went to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent before this year. And I said, hey, last year I did everything you asked me to do and nothing happened. And I felt like that was because I didn't have much control and there wasn't much accountability. I understand wanting to democratize this kind of stuff. I want to donate a health education program for the parents of our district, the parents, the teachers, the faculty, the administration, that we are going to put on from Active Life live in the school. And then we're going to support it with online education for the parents that is absolutely free. They have to spend $0 to access it. We're not even collecting their email.
But then nobody at the board can make money from that. So
they approved it. They approved it. So
that's awesome.
This winter, we're going to be putting on a 3-hour educational event in an evening when school is out, and the school is donating 3 hours of childcare. So the parents have no reason to not come.
That's going to be
Nice.
in person
And live streamed.
Nice.
I would love to jump in on that if I can.
I'll make sure you get a link. And then we are going to the online education is going to be something that will be ready by then. That's the holdup. That's the time is building this portal, because without that, like we do one event and everyone gets rah-rah and then
That's I mean, that's the epitome of what I see in public education with everything. It's one time, you'll have some motivational person, they'll talk about whatever it might be, and it's one time, and kids might have a certain feel, but then there's no follow-up. It's funny you said that about the board. I went to my board during COVID and said, we now know, we know the number one cause of increased risk and death of COVID is obesity and weight-related issues. What does the Board of Education plan on changing in our food offering to our students? And it was the same thing. Oh, we loved it. We know your background, because I wrote a course in nutrition and kinesiology as an elective for seniors, for people who want to get into this field. So they're like, oh, we'd love to have you part of a committee. And then I get called into a meeting with the superintendent, and it was basically like, you said some messed up stuff about our food service department. And I'm like, I know nothing's going to change. I go, my kid comes home, his only option at breakfast, which we opted, do not give my kid food there, is a cinnamon roll, a Pop-Tart, a French toast stick.
It's crazy.
Like, this is what they're given. And then the thought is, well, there's a lot of underprivileged students that don't get food at home. And I'm like, well, you're making them more underprivileged by giving them this food that's going to cause them to be crashing a couple hours later and cause them to be unhealthy. What's that?
You get them a health issue.
Yeah, you're starting a health problem from a very young age.
And it's under the guise of the letter they send home is studies show a healthy breakfast improves academic performance. So we're excited to bring back the breakfast in the classroom program.
Well,
and it's this
I think you face a complex issue because you work in the district. What I was able to do as a parent who doesn't work in the district is when I was going to meetings about COVID, there was the crazy people saying this and the crazy people saying that, and they were an opposite of each other.
Yeah.
So I got to come in and be like, when people would come sit next to me, don't fucking sit next to me.
I'm not with you.
I'm not team you.
Yeah.
I effectively became the mediator who was saying, like, look, you have to understand where both of these parent sets are coming from. And we need to be able to have common sense solutions that are based in logic. So, for example, you told us that the kids have to put their masks on to come to school because of the following statistics of COVID spread. Fine. None of those parents have to agree with you to to say, okay, at least you had a metric. But what is reasonable is for those parents to believe you're taking advantage of them unless you give them a metric by which masks come off.
Yeah.
So what is that metric? And I understand that you can't do it. You have to get it from the state. Have you asked the state? No, not yet. Well, good news. I crafted an email for you. All of you have it. I sent it to you at the start of this meeting. Please feel free to use it and send it to the state. I believe it will work. And then every meeting I could come back and just ask, have you sent an email to the state?
Yeah.
All I want to know, have you sent an email? And when they finally had to say, yes, we did, then I could say, did you get a response? No. Okay. Guess what? Neither did I. They have a line that says, if you have any questions, send us an email here. So I've sent that email to them every single day for the last month. And you sent it once. That's fine. Send it again. When you don't get a response, you'll start to feel the frustration that we, the parents who disagree with your policies, are feeling when we tell you something and you don't listen to it and you don't respond to us.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that did lead to some things like they put tents outside and they said, look, we're going to do as much outdoor teaching as we possibly can so the kids can take their masks off and be outside.
Like indoor, outdoor teaching.
Yeah.
Like the indoor, outdoor restaurants that all.
Yes. I will give our local school board credit. They
Did something.
They are trying.
That's awesome.
We're in a very mixed political town, so they hear it.
Nice.
Yeah, all that to just say, like, you know, when I went in to discuss nutrition after all of that with the school board, with the superintendent and the assistant in the office, you only get those meetings when you're respectful in the school board meetings.
Yeah.
If you're hemming and hawing, calling them assholes, when you're like, hey, can I get a one-on-one? They're like, no, we don't do one-on-one.
Yeah.
They give me one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Because I'm respectful and productive.
Yeah.
I asked him, why are we still serving this crap? And I got a reasonable answer that was I didn't like it, but it was reasonable. It was, look, because if we got rid of all of this stuff and just started giving them apples and oatmeal for example, making that up. I don't remember what they said exactly. A lot of the kids wouldn't eat it at all because it's not what they get at home. They're not used to it. It's disgusting to them.
That's a good point.
So he's like, so what we did is we switched from giving them ice cream to giving them frozen yogurt.
Wait, they got ice cream at school?
They had ice cream at school.
Yeah, like at lunch and stuff. Yeah.
Jesus.
Like as an extra thing that you can kind of get and add on.
So he's like, so we moved from ice cream to frozen yogurt.
Another reason to be a pedophile.
For the ice cream?
Yeah.
It's like
get two treats.
Oh, Jesus.
It's fucked up.
This is why I don't breed, Sean.
Sean's too professional for me to want to make the joke. So I appreciate you jumping in there, Rob. That was nice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I can slum it with the best of them. So he's like, so now at least they're eating yogurt instead of ice cream. Then we add fruit to it. And then we move from fruit and frozen yogurt to fruit and yogurt. Then we move to fruit. And he's like, and this is a multiple year process.
Yeah.
But he's like, we're trying to do it.
What are the barriers of like where are you meeting resistance when having these conversations? Like who are the bodies of either delegators or decision makers that are opposing these decisions?
They're not. It's not.
They're not.
Like,
okay.
I'm.
Is it just bureaucracy?
Not even that.
It's money with a lot.
Logistics of how do we do it? Like, help us understand how to do it. So I think most people come to these school boards and to any position of authority, and they're like, "This is the problem, and you're holding it up." Instead
Without
of
a solution.
saying, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, don't tell me a problem unless you have a possible solution.
Well, there's two sides.
Should
to
be.
that. Well, there's two sides to that because there are some problems that need to be pointed out that I don't know how to solve. Just to say, are you aware of this problem?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe this is? Do you believe this is a problem? And then the solutions, I'm always contrite enough to go in and say, I don't have the context to have a complete solution. But I have some ideas that I think might contribute to you developing a solution. Would it be okay if I shared them? Yeah.
Yeah. The problem, at least, and then, you know, because I do want to talk about, you know, Sean, what you do, you know, professionally in your gym and things like that and how you want to change things. A lot of these things, though, with the topic of like these schools and all this, I mean, this is coming from the federal government down. It's coming down the funding. I know in New Jersey, schools were paid and accepted a lot of money to follow all the COVID rules. And there was people that showed up at our board meeting calling them out. You guys took $467,000, like all this stuff, like every school district, whatever. They took money to follow rules. And then that pizza is considered a vegetable because there's tomato sauce in it.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, this meets the 4 food groups, and this is the cheapest way we can provide this food. And that's what a lot of times these schools are going to do. They're not going to listen because they don't see any value in it. They don't think these things are that bad. And it comes down to money, I think, for a lot of the schools. Obviously, not every single school, but yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I
on
wanted
why
I wanted
things
to go, I
don't
wanted
change.
to I wanted to go back to the point that he made about the conversation about how you have to educate the right people, and the right people are not the kids, because the kids are not receptive to that message at that age, because it just doesn't apply to them. Even if they're high level athletes, for them it's like a protein bar, a protein shake, an energy drink, and they're ready to go play football. But the education has to start in the household, and if you don't have parents that are receptive to that message, good luck ever relaying that to the children.
Yep. We got to attack this as a 10-year problem,
Yeah.
not an overnight change. And we need to back into the solution, and we need to be consistent about the beating of the drum.
Yeah. To transition from the kids to what you do in your space. I mean, this is all analogous to what you do in your space with your gym. What's your vision for what you want the future to be with healthcare, with the coach and their role, and with active life and your new space that you're building? What's your vision for all that?
You use the word vision, so I'll share with you what our company vision is, which I don't think is the question you're asking, but I want to share it anyway. Our vision is that we were able to see health, fitness evolve to function as healthcare. Our mission is to humanize the healthcare industry by professionalizing the fitness industry to empower the individual. And the reason that it's written that way, and this will answer your question, is the problem is not doctors. The problem is an overwhelmed medical system that is in that position because the fitness industry doesn't have answers. We, as a group, we just like to sit around and pretend that we're already incredible, that we're doing God's work, and that everybody should rain praise on us because we took a test and passed, and now we're allowed to be a trainer. Like that's not, you can get CEUs from NASM for being a glute specialist or a social media influencer. The other one is ISSA.
I saw that.
I don't know which one offers which, but it's like
NASM has a course now that's how to become. It's $299. I saw it. I got it sent to my email.
Does Liver King teach it?
He should.
He'd be fucking great at it. He's the best one there is
ever to go.
I thought he was natural. He fooled me.
Technically, horse hormones are natural.
He says he's going natural now. From now, he's done. He's off the stuff.
Oh my God. Was he lose 50 pounds?
What a relief that's got to be for a guy like that. Like to be outed and then be like, you know what? Fuck it. I lied.
Yeah, but how hard is that going to be mentally to come off of all of that, especially if he does not have a system of coming off slowly? To come off of that mentally, it's got to be a huge crash for him. That's going to be the hardest part.
You want to talk about a good thing to document?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
That would be huge.
He would make so much money on that documentary that it would supersede all of his other profits from testicle sales.
Mm-hmm. So to us, it's we need to make fitness more professional, and being more professional begins with self-awareness and ends with pursuing the education that fills in the gaps that you have and need to fill to serve the kind of client you want to serve.
So what kind of gaps are you seeing? I'm curious.
They're abundant. So first and foremost, I want to preface by saying what I teach, what Active Life does for coaches is not for everybody. And when I say that, I don't mean it in the coy bullshit way of like, if you're not committed, it's not for you. If you're not ready to learn, it's not for you. That's like when you get interviewed and they ask, what's your biggest failure? And you're like, I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah. I care too much.
Right. But that's when businesses say that kind of stuff, like, just to be clear, this isn't for everybody. If you're not ready to work hard, if you're not ready, nonsense. So the gaps are it starts with who can you actually serve? Not who is possible for you to get results for. Who is it likely you can get results for? And this starts especially in the group fitness environment, where it's like, we're a fit for everybody because look,
Yeah.
this person lost 100 pounds. This person got off medication. This person came,
We
ended
just
depression.
talked about this in our last podcast about group fitness and the downsides. And
Well, the question I always ask gym owners who will say like the magic of this program is it does all these things. I'm like, would you feel comfortable just like, there's a mental health issue in your town. Yeah. Every town has it. Great. Are you ready to run all of your marketing towards overcoming mental health in your town through your fitness? No. Well, why not? Oh, because you're actually not equipped to do that. The right person showed up for the right stimulus and got the result, but it's not likely for everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, then let's just fucking keep that in the back pocket.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the mental health aspect of it, we could obviously just go down the rabbit hole of scope of practice. I mean, the amount of psychotherapy based conversations I'm having on a weekly basis that I am not authorized technically to have, and go ahead and pull my license, whatever the fuck you want to do. But I have to have these conversations because 95% of my demographic is 40 female, disordered eating past, body dysmorphia, body image issues, scale issues. And we're not even talking about calories and macros and training. We're talking about how the fuck do you get over these traumatic things that you've gone through in your entire life. And as a 38-year-old man, that's what I'm discussing majority of my time. Now, I'm not technically trained to do it, but I've learned how to do it based on the experience that I've had over the last 15 years.
The difference is you're not playing psychologist. You're not deriving like, oh, this came from a trauma when you were a child and your father did this. Like, that's not what you're doing.
No.
You're just talking about life.
Yes.
Like, have you ever considered a different story might be true about you? That's all that you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's
perspective, I guess.
You're perfectly within your scope to do that.
Yeah.
But what I'm describing is, for example, the NASM CES certified corrective exercise specialist course. I think it costs like 500. I don't know what I shouldn't make this up. I know what's in it, and I know what's in ours to do the same thing that they're promising people can do. And they're not comparable. It's like one is like getting really nice new shoes and the other one is like getting a Ferrari and driving to work. Like, yeah, you're going to get to work faster in shoes than barefoot, but not if your work is really far away. You're not going to get there at all. And, we wrote a textbook that's 800 pages long. It has 996 test questions in it. Our students get 26 hours of one-on-one mentorship with a professional on our team. Every other week, they're mentored. They have 18 hours of video content to review. They have assignments due every single month. There's business skills and there's communication skills and there's tactical skills, because I believe that if you're going to do hard work, the reward for it must be worth it. And the work must be likely to lead to the reward. So that's the last time I need to plug my stuff. It wasn't an intention to plug. It was to speak to the magnitude of the information that a professional needs to be minimally competent in a specific problem set.
Yeah. $500 weekend course isn't qualifying somebody to really be fixing functional issues that somebody has. And when you say like coaches,
Sean, is that specifically corrective exercise only? That's your course on just corrective exercise as a specific topic?
A problem I have with the term corrective exercise is all exercise is corrective.
Sure.
We're trying to correct something. So we do an exercise. It is intended to be a course a mentorship that educates people on how to service the audience that is underserved by the fitness and healthcare industries completely. So what that means is I'll give you the two ends of the spectrum of the client who we serve extremely well. On the really healthy side, I want you to imagine a 49-year-old woman who has 3 kids, who has no history of injury, who's been a CrossFitter in the past, who's been working out her whole life. And now she's like, I just don't need to get my ass kicked when I go to the gym. And I don't know how to write my own program. And I don't feel like throwing things into the wind and seeing what sticks. I'm not motivated to go to the gym and follow some random program I found online. I want someone to guide me professionally as I age so I can be a really good mom to my kids, an example of someone who's strong, who took care of their health, who prioritize themselves first. That's the healthiest version, right? We're not getting that woman abs. We didn't even promise abs. It's not even in the conversation. On the other end of the spectrum is the person who is 63 years old, was born paralyzed on half of her body, went through occupational therapy to get her movement back, but still lacks dexterity and accuracy. So she compensates when she does things like a cable pull on one arm. Her hand will curl in, stuff like that. She has a recent history of stress fracture in her lumbar spine because she's osteoporotic. And she just had a hip replacement 3 months ago. How are you going to scale group class for that one?
Easy.
Right.
Yeah, or Orange Theory should be able to take care of that. No problem.
But
even individual personal trainers need to know. That's what you kind of said. Like people need to know who they can help. And I think a lot of personal trainers might be like, oh, I can help you. We'll just do these basic movements and kind of just walk them through stuff thinking they're helping and not really actually getting them where they could be if somebody was really trained to do it.
Right. And the personal trainer does not have to want to work with that person to provide value to the marketplace. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have
That's
to
where it's like, it's not for everybody.
It's
because not everybody wants to work with those people. They want to work with middle of the road and just kind of get you a little bit better, a little bit stronger, feeling a little bit better.
It's really, you have to have a passion for serving that kind of a client, because it's not a party when you work out with them.
Yeah. You're
not cracking jokes and I'm cool with your jokes, but you're not cracking dirty jokes when you're training that kind of a person, generally speaking. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of conversation about overcoming stories that they are telling themselves about what their possibilities for their future are. So you have to develop a very, very, very meaningful level of communication skills to understand what someone is saying behind what they say. Right. I mean, Aram, someone tells you, I want to lose 50 pounds. That's not why they came. You know that. Because if
never is,
you can look exactly how you want to look, but you weigh the same thing. Do you take it?
Oh, I think that's a question I ask 30 times a week.
Right. But so if the answer is yes, then why are we talking about weight loss publicly? Yeah. Right. That it's simple things like that. It's in our physical space, the flagship down the block. Our client chairs don't have arms on them. Why not? Because somebody who is 100, 200 pounds overweight looks at a chair with arms and has anxiety about, am I going to fit? Yeah. If you haven't done the work to speak to the audience who you aim to serve, you think you're doing the job and you just don't even know that you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes us all feel inadequate listening to you talk. I like that though. I respect it.
I was starting to go down the road of inadequacy, but then I realized I'm very good at staying in my lane.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if somebody,
a different lane.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, I've gotten off of 3 calls just today, two of whom I'm going to send an offer to, and one who I said, I'm just not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Purely because I'm not willing to go down the psychological rabbit hole that I know you're suffering from. And I even said to her, I said, you're better off spending that $195 a month on a therapist. And unpacking some of the issues that you have around your relationship with food. And she had started talking about some orthopedic injuries that I wasn't comfortable with. And I said, your best bet is PT, a good manual therapist, a good cognitive therapist. And then you'll be in a position where you'll have some of the foundational basics to start to get some results based on aesthetics. But I wouldn't even worry about aesthetics for at least 6 to 12 months before this stuff gets dealt with. But I think it's hard when you're when you're a trainer or a coach and you're trying to fucking make a living from this job and you're getting offers of, I want to work with you, getting thrown at you. It's very hard to say no to the potential income influx and then not be able to serve that client. So I understand where the limitations are. And I've, as a 38-year-old man who's been in this business for 15 years, I know where I stand and I can have that conversation now. Ask me that 10 years ago and I would have been fucking eating clients up left and right, not knowing how to serve them.
And to be fair, 15 years ago, you should have been. You need to learn who you don't know how to help by helping people and be like, oh, oops. And build,
that's how you learn. Yeah.
And build the network. But the thing, like what you're describing is this person came to you and said, I want a skyscraper. And you were like, well, we need a foundation and you don't have one. And I don't build foundations. I install windows. For example, I'm not minimizing what you do to be a window installer. I don't even know if that's a big job.
It's a fantastic analogy. I'm definitely going to steal that. So if you hear
Right.
that online at some point,
But
you know
you're like, where am I going to put the windows?
right.
It's inappropriate for me to start working with you.
Yeah.
And if someone said to me, how many grams of protein are in an ounce of steak? Like I can back into the math because I looked this up last week. That's it. Like I know there's 96 grams of protein in 1 pound of steak and 16 ounces of steak, but I don't know chicken. I don't know 2/3 of a pound of steak. Like I have to figure it all out, right? I have to Google it. So I'm an idiot when it comes to the things I don't know. And that's on purpose. I want to be able to say to somebody, I know absolutely nothing about that. So let me refer you to somebody who's an expert in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem at this point referring people out when somebody comes with a lot of different health issues. They're complaining about a lot of gut issues potentially. They rarely go to the bathroom. There's all these issues that seem like there's AI problems. It's like, I have a coach, check this person out. They're going to run some tests. They're going to do things. This is all they do is just work with complicated people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that, you know? So I think what you're saying is absolutely, I think at first people can maybe get a little defensive, like what you were saying at the beginning, of know who you can serve and who you can't serve. And it's okay to admit that this is not who I can or even want to serve.
The other thing is, there's 2 things I'd like to do. One is, answer that a little bit more thoroughly. And then 2, if it's okay with you, Aaron, I want to challenge you with something.
Absolutely.
So, it is hard to say no to the money that's coming to you, because what happens is not you, proverbial you, doesn't understand the work per minute that money is going to cost you. And so you think it's money coming in the door when in reality it's money going out the door, because you only have so many hours per week to do work. And that work takes you more hours than the work that you built your business around. And so your ceiling of that kind of client, there's fewer of them that you can handle. The emotional load is probably higher and the pay is the same. So you're running into nowhere land. We've referred out probably more clients in the last 4 years than most companies have talked to. It is exceedingly uncommon for those people to not refer somebody else. Meaning, when we tell somebody we're not a fit for you, they are the first person to refer somebody who is. Because they're like, they're not going to lie to you. They're going to give it to you straight.
Yeah.
So if you're out there listening to this and you're like, how do I turn somebody down? I need to make the money. I promise you, turning that person down in a way that is productive, getting them to someone who, instead of just saying, no, I can't help you, saying, I evaluated your case and I'm not confident that I can give you what you need. What I did was I reached out to these 4 other people, each of whom I believe could play a critical role in helping you. And they're all ready to talk to you. Would it be okay with you if I made some introductions over email so that you guys can start to have a conversation about where you need to be hit? They typically say yes to that. I then ask for a testimonial. Most people ask for a testimonial after the client has achieved success. I ask for a testimonial about the sales process. Everybody is telling everybody that they only take clients who are right for them, which we all know is largely bullshit.
Yeah.
So would you mind recording a video that's 1 minute or less, just explaining to people that you got on a call with me because you were interested in working together, you wanted to see if it'd be a fit. And at the end of the call, instead of trying to sell you something, I made a referral to these other companies on your behalf. And they typically say, yeah, no problem. And they do it. And then when people say, like in the setup of a call, now you're talking to a prospect, I'm like, I just want to let you know, I'm really not going to let you enroll if I don't think you're a fit. And here are 7 videos of the last 7 people who have experienced that. It's telling you as much. Here's their contact information. They've all offered to be connected should you want to ask them questions about the sales experience with them. That's how you turn people down.
Yeah.
The challenge that I have for you, Aram, is I heard you say $195 a month. I imagine the services that you're offering are far more valuable than $195 a month. And so my challenge,
fucking hate you already. I'm going to drive to Long Island and make sure I pluck out your beard hair, but go right ahead.
Come for it. My challenge to you would be to ask yourself, if you were charging clients $1,000 a month, what would be different about the service? Look for all of the things in it that wouldn't cost you any money to add. And then charge for all of them appropriately so that when people come in, They know they're in for a real deal.
He does have a higher ticket
Okay.
option.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
have
just
ranges, but that's my bottom end range. But I don't disagree with you. I've been undercharging for a decade. For a number of reasons. Probably one, because my father didn't appreciate or hold me. The other is because I grew up poor. The other is because I don't have a very luxurious lifestyle. I can give you a multitude of reasons of why I don't charge a lot. But the reasons why I'm hesitant to increase prices, it's a number of reasons. A, because I don't have the slew of systems and the formal processes and onboarding situations that a lot of other bigger coaches and companies have. So I would feel uncomfortable. I do everything manually myself, and I don't have any assistants or coaches underneath me. So it's literally just a one-man show. I'm able to handle the workload very well on my own, and people feel very connected to me. And that's really the biggest offering that I have as a coach. Do I think I'm a better coach than most? Probably. Do I think that I have tools that are better than most coaches? Probably not. I think a lot of people, like even Jimmy himself, when he onboards a client, he's got this beautiful welcome packet. With me, you get an email and a text message, and we're off and running. Let's go to work.
Yeah,
but
I think
when my phone dings at 9:00 at night on a Friday when I'm on a date, I'm picking it up.
I think my contention would be that you're overvaluing those things and undervaluing the you part.
I am. But I also don't think I'm that important, so I don't really charge that much.
That's fine.
No, but that's why, like, if you come to my event, you'll see me walking around making sure that everybody's having a good time and getting what they need. And I'm not going to need any stage time because I don't give a fuck about it. I do what I do because I enjoy doing it. It puts a roof over my head. I get to live in Southern California. I don't drive a nice car. I don't have very expensive appetites. So at some point, do I want to make more money? Sure. Is that what I'm driven by? No, but I am driven by the fact that people respect the service that they get and they appreciate it. And I probably should do a better job of charging more, but we'll talk about that on the next podcast.
Yeah, my intention was not to suggest at all that you don't do a good job or that you're not taking it seriously. I imagine you're doing both of those things really well. I was only pointing out that you make yourself available for clients. And there are people who would value that over a really nice welcome packet and a good app and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my clients aren't allowed to talk to me at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Do not text me. I will not text back.
Yeah.
If you give me 84 hours to respond to an email, and you might get one. That's in the description of my services.
What I have found, when I first started doing what we're doing now, we were charging $80 a month.
Wow.
$80. And what I learned through going through it myself was that charging more for me ended up allowing me to do more for the people I was working with. And it made me happy. Maybe it won't make you happy. It's just a thought experiment.
Oh, I'm curious. When you say you were able to do more, like, I realistically don't even know what more I can do short of flying to somebody's house and prepping their food for them.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me what more you can do? Yeah. I don't know what your whole service is. But one thing you could do is you could add in a nice little on-ramp.
Like a welcome back.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's maybe it just comes down to the user experience.
Yeah.
Maybe you think that people being able to reach you at 9:00 on a date is a value add, but in reality, it could be that the value add would be not being able to reach you at 9:00 on a date so that they can learn how to set boundaries for themselves in following the boundaries that you set for yourself.
Good perspective.
I don't know is the short answer.
I don't disagree with you. I think you're absolutely right. And evoking that thought process is probably the thing that I don't spend enough time on. And I think being available does become a crutch sometimes, because I definitely have people, I don't have people that abuse it per se, but I certainly have people that have no qualms about the time at which they reach out, or the content in which, or the context in which they're reaching out for, even though I do a very comprehensive job of laying out everything they need to do without my intervention. There's still a multitude of questions that are then presented almost immediately, just purely because people aren't doing the work on their end to review the materials that they've gotten.
Mhm.
And I think that's just being human. I think, it's like when my bank gives me 4 or 5 different pages after I open up an account, I'm not reading any of those fucking pages. Like, you as a representative of the bank should summarize what's in those 4 pages because I'm paying you for it.
100%. I'm not reading those pages either. I have a coach on our own team who I had a call with today, who writes all of my programming for me. And I was like, I missed part of the workout because you put it in a paragraph. And I don't read paragraphs. And he understood. I'm like, and I'm not the only client you have like this. Like, give it to me in bullet points.
Yeah.
And I'll do everything that's on there. But if you put it in a paragraph, I read the first sentence. We're done. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a responsibility to the client, and there's a responsibility to the provider. So I'll share something with you because you were asking about the space. At our flagship, we charge $150 a training session and $830 a month for membership. Now,
and with the monthly membership, what does that entail?
Individual program design done at a time certain in a space with no more than 9 other people and a professional overseeing all of it.
And how many days a week would that be?
As many
No,
as
but so if you pay $830 a month, you're not getting a trainer individually. You're just part of the environment.
You've graduated into that.
Similar to an OPEX type of environment where everybody's having something individual, but they might be all there in the same room at the same time.
Similar and different the way that, Advil kills a kid and Tylenol doesn't. Yeah. They're similar, but they're not the same. So
you're the one that doesn't kill the kid.
Oh, we work with older kids. The thing is this: nobody gets to choose what membership they're in.
Yeah,
they're coming to us for professional guidance, and so they get professional guidance. They get personal training until they are competent and confident in the things that we're asking them to do, and their core problem has been solved. They get autonomous training, which is we're writing a program design for them, and they're executing it in a room at a time certain with a professional on staff who's overseeing 8 to 10 other people at a time. I can't speak for OPEXs. I don't know what percentage of them are running time certain. I think most of them are doing come whenever you want and leave whenever you want.
I only know one OPEX gym that was in New Jersey, and they closed up, and I was talking to him about it. And my memory was that it was a certain time, but it seemed like a lot of times people be showing up at the same time. So I don't know if they had a class time, like you're coming from 4 to 5 to work out, 5 to 6. We don't want people just starting the workout while you're in the middle of it. I had the impression in my head that they had these appointmented times, but there might, hey, I'm seeing you two in the gym. What's your workout look like today? What's your workout? And then they're going about their thing, and there's a coach there. But I mean, I'm sure maybe different gyms are doing it different ways.
Our clients graduate into that privilege.
Okay.
And some of the big differences, people who don't know OPEX won't care what the difference is. I'll just share what it is. When you finish personal training, what we are suggesting is that you can follow a program. You're autonomous. You know how to do the exercises in the program, and you can follow it. You don't need us to watch every rep and correct you and cue you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you're trying to get people out of training into the gym. Yeah.
Yeah. If they don't want to leave training, they're welcome to continue training. But we tell them from the very beginning, our ambition for you is that you don't need training long-term, because for 2 reasons. Number one, that's how you become an independent person. And number 2, that's how we become profitable.
Yeah.
Sure. We make more money when you're not buying personal training, even though it costs you more money to buy personal training. So personal training is formulaically prescribed. We put them through a basic needs analysis, an interview process, and we prescribe a number of personal training sessions based on a formula that we built. We'll tell you, look, we think you need 100. We're going to recommend that you mentally commit to 80. Mentally commit to 80. You're going to pay us for 12. After the 12th one is done, we're going to renew you for 12 more without asking. This way, it's our job to continue earning your business every 12 sessions. There is no price difference. If you insist on paying for all 80 up front, you're still paying $150 a session.
Because the value in the service doesn't go down per session.
Correct.
Yeah.
I
agree with that.
Once they move out of, and I should be clear, we teach people still to price differently for different package sizes in our education. The reason for that is because their model isn't yet set up to be complete in the way that ours is, where the end dictates the beginning. if that makes sense. They're still selling personal training back into group for a lot of them early in the phase of working with us. Once they get to this model, those price breaks go away. So they get into the autonomous sessions. Those are individual program designs, completely custom, executed in a group environment with a professional overseeing everything that they're doing. They have their own equipment at their station. They don't need to go to the common rack and grab a dumbbell. They have it at their station.
Yeah. What's that new, I've seen Stu from Gym Talker, what the fuck, what WT, whatever. I know you know him. What's that kind of style where they're having these like micro gyms
Pick a
where,
spot,
what is it?
select a spot.
Yeah, I guess. And it seems like all your stuff's right there. You're not having a line of rigs. There's like a rig with a bench and everything's right there. So you're not moving around trying to get barbells from all over the place. Everything's right there. It's such a cool idea. And that sounds like what you guys have.
We don't even have a squat rack in the building.
Okay.
We don't have a squat rack. We don't have a pull-up bar.
They're not functional.
We're not functional. We're practical.
I like it.
I can talk to you about the difference between those two if you'd like to know. But so once they move into the
the difference between functional, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The difference between functional and practical.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it cognitively, but to the audience, I think that'd be a fun conversation to have. So
you want me to pivot to that?
Yeah. Oh, just quick, if it's not going to be a big deviation for you, but
that's a huge deviation. I'm glad to go there. I'm more than happy
go back to what you're saying then.
Yeah.
So we'll come back.
The reason why it's a big deviation, and by the way, I'm happy to keep going. I know that our time or whatever, but I'm happy to keep going if you got more to talk.
I don't actually have clients. I was just kidding. So we have all the time in the world.
Okay, perfect. So once they're in autonomy, they can follow a program. Ideally, they get to independence when they can edit a program
themselves. They can actually pick and choose what movements, what rep ranges.
Edit. No, they don't need to be able to design it because not everybody wants to. And you can get a program online anywhere. And if we've provided you with the education that you need, you can look at a program like, this is fucking dumb. This one looks like it might help me. Let me edit it a little bit like this and take it over to the gym that costs $40 a month and not pay us $830 anymore.
Yeah.
That's totally within.
And you want that to happen.
I want that to happen for people who want that to happen.
But you could still be providing, with your business model, you could still be providing the programs. They could be paying you to have the program written, but they're just doing it in their own space.
They could, but they would be leaving our brick and mortar business. They would be entering our digital business, which are different entities.
Yep.
So it would be a new coach. It'd be a new everything.
Yep. Okay, cool. So you're part of all of it, from teaching them to giving them some independence to, hey, we can still provide a service for you even when you leave our brick and mortar and you're doing things on your own.
From a different company, from our parent company.
Okay.
And we educate them the way that an entry-level personal trainer, our clients get more education than a personal trainer gets to get certified.
Yeah.
I believe that.
I saw your post too, talking about, I think it was just maybe today, if 45 minutes of the hour was you educating them on the stuff, they're still paying for an hour. And if you're not charging that person for the hour, then you're undervaluing the education that you're providing the client.
Yes.
It's like, absolutely. No small thing Aram knows and everything. I own a driving school and sat down here in South Jersey. And that's the same kind of thing where some people are like, well, the first 20 minutes I wasn't driving the car. Well, yeah, we're teaching you things. We're showing you things. This is part of the lesson, with learning how to drive. It's the same principle of what you're saying with that.
I think
I absolutely agree.
And let me ask you this, and maybe you've already figured out what this recipe is, but I would imagine that the clientele base that's going to be best suited for that type of environment is vastly different than just you have to vet that individual.
Yeah.
Because most people are going to walk in and want a hair appointment. They're not going to want to be told how to build a watch. They just want to know what time it is.
And that's perfectly reasonable. There are 14 other fitness businesses in town that can do that for you.
Yeah.
It's just, we're not one of them.
And that's not even direct competition for you whatsoever, because your model is distinctly different than what they're doing.
It's only direct competition in the sense that somebody who should be with us might be with them because they don't know who they shouldn't be serving.
Got it.
Yeah.
But we don't want their client.
Yeah. I want you to explain for the person who's listening to understand maybe where should they be going. We have maybe a gym, somebody's writing them programming online. They hire their online coach to write a program and they feel comfortable maybe with movements. Should they be doing CrossFit? Should they be seeking something higher level like what you're doing?
So the answer to that is so individual.
What would be some things that based on what somebody's looking for, then this is what I would do for now, or this is maybe the benefit that you could get from, because CrossFit, I love CrossFit.
There's use.
It's correct. You shouldn't be doing it for 20 years.
Let me answer the question. I think, Aram, I think you were about to ask, well, don't you want the client who they have who shouldn't be with them? Is that what you were going to ask me?
I was going to ask if you're the individual seeking the help, then obviously you don't really know what category you fall into until you hear the different offerings of the different things.
And that's how the industry bullies the individual.
Yeah. And every place is going to tell you, as the potential client, we have the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So as a listener of this, how can that individual figure out what might be the best thing for them based on maybe like a range of goals? I know it's super broad, but just to give a little insight on for somebody to figure it out.
It's actually fairly simple if you're willing to do the work. The same way you would interview somebody and ask them, why shouldn't I hire you? Interview the gym and ask them why you shouldn't hire them. What are the reasons why I would fail here? Like, what are the reasons why what would make me not a fit for your system?
What if they're just like, there's no reason that you're not a fit?
Run.
You're saying you as the gym owner would run away from that individual?
No, the
me
client.
As the client walking in.
If the gym owner saying we can provide everybody the solution, get out of that situation.
Got it.
Just like in the nutrition space, this is the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That will benefit everybody. Keto's the king.
If you go in and you're like, hey, what would make me someone who would be unsuccessful here? And they're like, if you follow everything that we tell you to do, like you're gonna get the results. Get out of there. Get out of there.
I feel like if the person's not even asking you what results you're looking for, is a major red flag as well.
A huge red flag.
Yeah.
But then the other side of that is maybe they didn't understand your question. So be more specific. Okay, I understand if I follow your program, I'm going to get the physical results that I'm looking for. And I've told you the results, so you know the answer to that. What about the way that I learn? What about the way that I like to exercise? What about the environments I like to train in? What kind of an environment am I going to be in here? So I can understand if it's one that I'm going to like. Who is the person who wouldn't like this environment?
No.
Everybody likes it. I need to get out of here.
Yeah. I think people too, anybody listening who's kind of trying to figure out where they might fall in the space, you have to really become crystal clear on what your goal is. If your goal is, I just want to be part of a community and get my heart rate up, maybe a group fitness place might be for you if that's your goal, whether that's a noble goal or not, especially in the long run. Hopefully your goals will evolve with time, but
it's about
people need to figure out their goal.
It's about being able to share your goal, right? If people go to the doctor and say, I want to be out of back pain, and the doctor's like, what causes you back pain? Lifting heavy weights. Stop lifting heavy weights.
Yeah.
Did the doctor do a bad job? No, you expressed your goal as being out of back pain. You expressed the cause of your back pain to be lifting heavy weights. The doctor got you out of back pain.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to say to the doctor, I want to be out of back pain when I lift heavy weights.
Yes.
Can you help me with that? And now the doctor has a much more specific answer to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the easiest question to ask people to identify if that gym actually has thought about you at all.
Yeah.
What are the reasons I shouldn't join?
And that's really a question because I feel like 99.9% of gyms are going to say you won't fail here.
Unfortunately, I think that's true. But I think, what's actually interesting about this is I think that the gym who ends up being the most honest in this is the commercial gym. And they don't do it because they're trying to help the client. They do it because it's the way they make more money.
Well, they operate off volume. They don't give a shit who walks in the door.
Well, yes and no. What I'm saying here is they'll turn to somebody and say, look, if you really want to get those results and you really want to get them fast, I'd recommend you work with a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And they're right. Now, did they get there for the right reason? Maybe not. But did they get there? Yeah. Now what the question to ask the gym owner is, can your trainers deliver on that promise? Which is a totally different conversation, but at least you got directed to the right part of the gym.
Now, most towns, obviously, maybe bordering on no towns, have what you are offering.
Mm-hmm.
What could somebody who's trying to figure out their place be? What would you recommend might be a good starting point if nothing like what you are offering is near them?
Let's say you have a training age. Let's start there, meaning you've been exercising for a while. You're comfortable in a gym environment.
Yeah.
Join the one that's the most fun for you to do.
Yeah.
Start there, because the best program is the one you'll follow.
Yeah.
The next step is, let's say you have no training age. You've never exercised, or it's been a long time and it's hard for you to get back into it. Find a reputable source online. Get them to write the program for you and provide the mental support. And then take it to a personal trainer in your area and ask them to teach you the exercises in the program.
I like that.
Which is such a mind fuck for so many trainers to do that, because a lot of trainers are like, well, I can't sell you a package now because it's.
I've never heard. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've never heard that as a way.
I've suggested that to a lot of my clients. I've said, listen, I would love to write you a program, but I would be more comfortable having you execute this program under the care of a professional who's going to be able to teach you the nuances of these movements, so that I know you're going to build some base level proficiency on them, because I can't physically be there for you. But the problem with that is yeah, you're working with me on nutrition, you're working with me on programming, you're working with me on psychology, and we have that accountability loop together. But now you're having this other outsourcing issue with this other individual who's at a facility that I can't vet, that I can't, like, even if I get on the phone with that person, can we truly be the best team for you?
No, there's too much ego. They'll be like, why is he having you do this?
Hold on, but then that's the wrong person.
Yeah.
There is somebody at that gym who is down to give you 5 sessions paid for.
Sure.
In which they look at your program and say, I'll teach you how to do all of these movements until you know them. And then you will refer somebody else to that person who wants to work with a trainer in your town.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is, Aram, as the person writing the program design, you understand this person doesn't know how to do any of these things. So you're not going to write a complex program with, positions that they've never been in before and all kinds of crazy stuff. You're going to keep it simple. Sure. And that's going to give that person some confidence.
Yes. Yeah. And then you build that base level of confidence, and they can evolve to something a little bit more specific. Absolutely. But even that, like, I think I just had this come up. I had a woman that started with me about 2 weeks ago now. Totally group fitness background. Only exercise she's ever done has been monitored by a group fitness instructor, whether in an Orange Theory or at a facility. So our biggest challenge was, it was hieroglyphics to her when I sent her a program. And then I got on the phone with her. I said, do you have an hour on Saturday morning for us to be able to literally go through line by line and talk about this? Very unwilling to do so, purely because there was a fear of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But then there's also the hesitance of, I don't want to have to give up an hour of my Saturday to learn. Right. So then I had to explain to her very, very eloquently, if there's no curiosity, and if there's no level of personal accountability to want to learn this stuff, you are going to be having to rely on a crutch for the rest of your life. If that's how you want to live, I had to go back to the idea that maybe I'm not the fit for you, because I want to teach. I don't want to just show. Mm-hmm. And then she started to change her thinking a little bit, as far as like, okay, yeah, maybe I am curious. Maybe I do want to learn. But then after day 1 of trying, it was right back to, what do you think about CrossFit? Mm-hmm. I said, okay, so that means that you're already not involved in the I want to learn process. You're in the I just want to execute process, which is great. But again, you're going to have to pay somebody for the rest of your life. Is that what you want? Do you want autonomy, or do you want to rely on somebody else?
I think the opportunity is to head that off in the sales process, to be like, so our clients pay to learn how to be clients. So part of the education is how do you become a good client? And that education gets delivered in sessions.
Yep.
And that's part of the foundation that we're building for them. And we make that clear before they enroll. So that, they're deciding consciously to do that. So I think that's one of the areas that maybe a woman like that could be handled in a way that she would be making a bigger decision before she starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can always go back to that and say, hey, this is exactly what we talked about.
Of course. And I mean, the amount of time I spend before anybody clicks pay, I mean, there could be 3 to 5 hours of just talk time before anybody. I mean, some people sign up almost on the spot, which sometimes is scary to me. And then other people will be a little bit more careful. I prefer the latter, because it allows me to know that the person that I'm bringing on is going to be somebody who's willing to play ball and has an open mind and is willing to do some of that work.
So the way that we like to think about that is, if you're on a sales call with us, you're doing the selling, we're doing the buying. Convince us we should work with you. And not in like a try out for us way, in a share enough with us to allow us to believe that we're actually going to be able to do this. And so we walk them through what's called an impact filter. And what that means is, what is the purpose of taking this action? Why are you looking to work with us at all? What's the purpose? Okay, great. What would be the best case scenario if we were successful? Okay. What would be the worst case scenario of you not starting at all? Great. What must be true for the best case scenario to come to fruition? What is the success criteria for you to actually be able to achieve that? Okay. That's call one. On that call, we're deciding, do we think that this is appropriate or not? Can we help you? Let's pretend the answer is yes. We're going to go to call two, which is going to be, how are we going to help you? What is the prescription going to be? And in that call, we're determining if you're going to enjoy following our prescription enough for you to be a client that's going to be successful. If along the way, you're like, I don't think that's going to work for me, well, great. Let's make a referral to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it's when we finish all of that that we say, look, now that you understand how we would help you solve the problem you came with, is this something you're interested in doing? And then they just say yes or no. Yeah. And we tell them what it costs, and there isn't usually much objection.
Yeah, well, I think it's great.
At that point, what objection would you even have, really? I mean, you've essentially given the blueprint to that individual. They could walk away and then just say, fuck you, and I'm just going to do this on my own. At the end of the day, I love that approach, because 99% of the people I give advice to can't apply it anyway. So they're going to come back. I give away the amount of free advice and free phone calls that I do on a weekly basis. I love doing, because you're not going to want to apply this stuff because you're missing the coaching piece of it.
I love when people come to us after having worked with another coaching company, and we help them more on their consultation than they got in 2 years with their other company. And then they're like, so how do I sign up? And we're like, oh, we're not ready to offer you. What do
you ever get any resistance from the client, or like any negative feedback, as far as because I could play devil's advocate and say that's a very pompous process.
Mm-hmm. And right? My response to that would be, somebody who thinks that's a pompous process won't like the way that we educate. And I respect the way that I respect your right to believe that it's a pompous process, that we're so highbrow that we would say you're not qualified to be a client for us. Yeah. And that's because we have failed to help you understand that it's not about you being a fit for us. It's about us being a fit for you. And so the judgment that we're casting is actually on ourselves. We don't think we have what it takes to help you. Would you prefer us to sign you up anyway?
Yeah.
Well, and I like the idea too, because even like with when you're working with somebody one-on-one, at least with the nutrition stuff and trying to get people to make decisions, you're asking them. I believe a good coach is asking a lot of questions and helping that person come to their own solution, not just listening to what somebody says and always giving the roadmap and always, all right, the light's green, go. Like, the people have to make decisions on their own. So I love that as part of that onboarding process, they have to cognitively figure out what is going to make me successful. And it's all going to go back to their effort, their willingness, and all of that. So right off the bat, that person can, and you can figure out as well, like, this person is not very self-aware. They're not willing to do work, and they're confronting that on that console call, which I love that.
I talked to a professional development prospect yesterday who, if they were to enroll with us, their cost of being a client would be $15,000 a month. And at the end of the call, he was like, we want this. How do we get started? And I was like, I'm not selling it to you right now. I need you to go talk to your staff who you believe are on the same page as you are. And I need you to ask them to convince you that they're on this page. Like, give them every reason to not be on the page and make them sell you that, no, this is what we want to do. Not so that you can decide if you should enroll or not, but so that you can know what you're dealing with when you do. Yeah. Because if you enroll and you think you have all these coaches who are ready to walk in your path, and then you find out that they're actually not, it's going to be a rude awakening for you. Yeah. I want you to know what you have coming in.
Yeah. 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 Imagine if going back to the beginning of schools, imagine if schools did that with their teachers, but they don't. They just unroll some new things, and every teacher's got to do it. There's no buy-in. There's resentment, all of that. So it'd be great if those types of things happened. And it's great that there's the ethics in your company to encourage them, to get them to do that, because a lot of people aren't thinking. They're so excited. They think everybody else is going to be excited about it. And if they're not, it's a flop.
And the difference, and this goes back to what Aaron was saying before about people letting people enroll. And then I will share with you the difference between practical and functional, because I know you want that. Is if that person goes through that process after I told them, no, I'm not ready to sell this to you yet. I don't think you know what you're getting into. Go talk to your team. When they come back to buy, there is no buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
I don't have to convince them a month later that it was a good decision.
And the price went to 17 by the time they come back.
Obviously.
I'm just 20. Well, it was 15. Fuck you, baby. It's now 25.
Much longer to get their response than I expected.
Sorry. You thought I said a week. I meant like this week. No, there's no buyer's remorse. There's no need for a strong button down at the end of a sale. It's just, let's do this. We're ready now. We know what we're into.
And that's you providing continuing education for the coaches and the trainers at a facility when you're talking about the professional development.
It's us gradually transitioning their business model from a group model with some personal training today to an active life business model a year from now. And along the way, the idea is, how do we close one business and open another one in the same space with the same staff, with some of the same members, without losing money? We're expert level at that. So the difference between functional and practical is, if we look at, there's two strong definitions of functional training in the marketplace. One of them is that functional training is things, the type of training that emulates life, that makes things in life easier to do as a result of the training that you did. They look like life activities. They perform like activities in real life. And so doing them makes you better at life. That's a bastardization of
like definition. A 300-pound back squat.
Right. You need to do that all the time.
Yeah.
So, and then the other definition is CrossFit, which is basically a function of the more power output that an exercise has, the more functional that exercise is.
I never understood that. I mean, and I went through their stupid certification. I never understood that definition of it.
Those are the two that people are living with. So let's answer the CrossFit one first. Okay, that's fine. Let's just assume that that's the best definition of functional in the world. That doesn't make it practical. Just because you can produce a ton of force in a fast amount of time doesn't mean there's a practical use for it every day.
Doesn't mean you should.
Well, that too. But like, what we're saying is, in that case, the word functional has just been put as a placeholder for most powerful. And if we're saying most powerful, then my question to you would be, are there things that you do that don't require a ton of power in your real life? Are there things that if you applied a ton of power to, that actually be problematic? Like, do you pour your water for time? And I'm oversimplifying it, but the idea of, if you can put out more power, it's more functional, suggests that going for a walk every day for 25 minutes is less functional than going for a run every day for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, functional for what?
Yeah.
What's the intended outcome?
Wait, context matters.
Yes. And that's when we start talking about practicality.
Yeah, like it's like a deadlift can be a functional movement, but it's not very practical in your life that you're grabbing a bar and having to lift it in this perfect form. You might be grabbing a 100-pound sack with a rounded spine, lifting it up. That's going to be practical, but that's not how you're doing a deadlift with a barbell.
If anything, I would suggest that the most practical lift in that kind of a space for real life is the starting position. What's that?
Suitcase carries.
Sure, maybe.
Not for the deadlift, but yeah, never mind.
I was thinking like a version of a deadlift pulling from the floor is the starting position for a clean, because that's the position you would get into to move a couch.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, you're not getting into that position ever. Yeah. You're not picking anything up off of the ground with a static spine in neutral, symmetrically loaded on both sides. So let's not pretend that doing that prepares us for activities that look nothing like that.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Well, and how many times, I did this to myself. You're deadlifting, everything's great. Then you go to load one more plate on and you tweak your back. It's like, I made it through the deadlift, but then this slightly different position, just putting a 45-pound plate on, you end up hurting yourself.
Well, the counter argument to that is people hurt themselves tying their shoes. And it's a reasonable counter argument to it. All I would say is strength is gained in the length it's trained. Right? So what that means is if I train with my spine straight forward all the time, it's not stronger when I turn it.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
Correct.
So how
Correct.
often do I want to expose myself to those other positions under load, under control, so that when I go into the world and do it, my body is like, I've been here before. I'm really strong here.
Yeah.
So the functional definition as it applies to power to me is just a different conversation. They're not talking about practicality at all. And because practical and functional are so synonymous, people get confused by it. Now, when we come to the other side of exercises that emulate life, great. That makes a ton of sense to me. So then what happens there is a functional exercise can become impractical when done to a degree that no longer applies practicality to everyday life. So what that means is, should you be able to squat ass to grass and stand up? Definitely. Should you be able to do it with 50 pounds on a barbell? Probably. You'll never need to do it in life, but there's a reasonable case to be made that if you want to be able to decay to being able to air squat on the last day you're on the planet, you should be able to squat with some weight right now. How much weight? That's when it becomes an interesting conversation to me.
Yeah, and this was so before we started recording, I brought up the topic, and this is kind of where Sean's going, so you could explain a little bit. Is there's no reason to ever have to back squat more than your weight. We have these people chasing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds on a back squat. There's no reason to back squat more than your weight, your body weight. So explain that a little bit.
Well, I think in order to say something like that, which I did, I think it's important that you can steel man both sides.
Mm.
Because if you can't speak to why you should do that, then it should be expected that you just don't understand it.
Mm.
The reasons why you would do that, so let's start there, is the neurological overload and adaptation that's going to happen, the amount of motor units that your body is going to develop, building nervous, like pathways from your brain to your muscles. Mm-hmm. You will literally increase the number of those by squatting heavier. Mm-hmm. That is good. You will also increase bone density until a certain degree, at which point you're not increasing more bone density and you're actually degrading hyaline cartilage, but it's a conversation for another day. There will be carryover in your ability to develop trunk strength. Your abs will get stronger. Your back will get stronger. All of those things are true. So why not do it? Well, because we can achieve those same things through means that do not have the deleterious effects that a squat that heavy has.
You talking about implements at this point?
Implements, positions, yes. So I don't need to squat 300 pounds to create a neurological adaptation.
Axially.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, go ahead.
I guess because I don't know. I guess I'm always married. I'm fucking nuts and I'm married to nuance. So when I hear conversations like these, my brain starts going like, well, what about hypertrophy? And what about strength? And what about, and like I start to go off into these different tangents, but then I always back myself into the realistic answer of your average everyday human person wants to just not be insecure in their own body.
Well, again, it goes back to what is practical. Yeah. That's if we have to bring it back to what's practical, and then the question should be practical for what? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is practical in the sense that you have enough broad capacity that you can decide what to specialize in.
Do you consider that GPP, like general physical preparedness? That's your base level?
I think, yeah. Like, good practical training would be an ideal GPP program.
Yeah.
The idea that all we're not promising that you're going to have abs. I'm not promising that you're going to be able to play sports. I'm not promising any of that. I'm promising a life that is physically easy outside of the gym. That's it. That's the promise. Now, you want to get specialized? You want to compete in barbell sports? You want to get onto a football field? You want to play baseball? You want to play soccer? You want to be a track and field athlete? The needs change. And now the training becomes practical for that application and impractical for everyday life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the whole premise of it.
What about on a broad 30,000 foot view if the application is body composition?
Then you have to train that way.
Which way specific? Well, I guess there's no specifics.
So it depends on what the body composition you're looking for is. Do you want to look like a bodybuilder or you got a body build? Do you want to be just lean? You can train any way you want.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah, but you
actually,
can
all
create
right,
the
so
stimulus
no,
just with different movement, different rep ranges. Doesn't have to be 300 pounds.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to kind of disagree with the idea that you can train any way you want.
So I'm being
Because
loose with my
anyway,
language.
yeah.
It-
So
It's,
I guess
it's
if you were to be more specific about that statement, right? Because some people are going to hear this, and you know how everybody loves taking things out of context. Oh, well, Sean fucking said I can do whatever I want. And I'll be able
please let that clip get 1 million views. Please. Like that,
to.
Sean said you can train however you want. He's such a fucking idiot. Please give it all the views.
Yeah, but
I'll
that
respond.
person thought Liver King was natural. So.
I'll respond to it every
But you know what I mean, though. Like some person driving in their car next Monday morning will hear that and be like, "Well, I've gotten zero result doing Orange Theory, so I'm going to just keep doing Orange Theory because Sean said it was okay."
Yeah,
I want to clarify that so that somebody listening to this doesn't get led astray.
that's fair. What's necessary is an understanding of the way that the exercise that you're doing is affecting the rest of the things that you're doing. And so if you're at Orange Theory, for example, there is a caloric demand that you need to be meeting. There is a sleep demand that you're going to need to be meeting. There is a cognitive demand of my body feels like this. I probably shouldn't go in today that you need to be meeting. Like those are things that everything comes with that nuance.
That's my biggest problem with the group fitness stuff is that there's such a fear that if I miss a day, I'm going to fall behind.
But
that's not just group fitness. I think that's just, I mean, I have people.
But if you have program written 3 days a week, you do the 3 days a week. It's not 7 days a week. I mean, I see these CrossFit and Orange Theory people. It's like, I can't miss a day. It's that WOD's a good one, and they just don't listen to their body with rest. I know I went on a tangent, but that's what
that happens. But I think that's a different set of problems for that person.
Yeah.
I wish I had those problems.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was an overachiever or competitive whatsoever. For me, I'm just happy that I look better than Jimmy.
That's debatable.
It's a very low bar.
But
debatable.
The practical application of exercise does it get you to a baseline where you can do whatever you want? And it becomes impractical when you start doing things that cause knee pain, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, elbow pain, ankle pain. And you're like, hip pain. I got to warm up. What are you talking about? If you need to go through an extensive warm up to start your workouts are impractical. If you are working,
could you argue that the conditions of that day of your average day are not conducive to you training the way you train?
I spend every second I'm awake thinking about this stuff. When I'm with my kids, I can't turn this stuff off. So I could argue anything you want.
So all right, so let's take the example of the person who sits for 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Is that person prepared to do something as elementary as a bodyweight squat without feeling some type of discomfort?
Is it their first day? Have they been sitting in a chair for 17 years and now it's their first day of doing air squats?
No, it's their 175th day. I mean, let's say that they do have some experience.
You're talking about me.
Yeah.
I sit in a chair for, 10 hours a day. I work out in the morning before I come into work. I walk to the office. I walk home. I play sports. My warm up is, I don't know, I want to get my heart rate up today.
Yeah.
Like I'll hit a heavy bag. That's my warm up. Yeah. I'll go on a jog around the block.
Tell us how you feel about foam rolling.
Well, it's interesting. I gave that example today in a staff meeting. I was like, one of the reasons why people give me a lot of shit online is because I'm a radical. I'm a radical in the sense that foam rolling has, just like anything else, we're just using the foam roller as a stand-in. It can be dangerous, and not in a physical sense. It can be dangerous because if you're doing something that isn't getting you a result, and foam rolling can get results. Let's just pretend you're doing something, you're doing it in a way that's not, right? You're foam rolling. It's been a year. Nothing has changed. It's not going to change. Okay. So if you come to the gym and you foam roll for 10 minutes a day, for me, that's life-threatening. Because I'm like, you've convinced yourself that it's okay to develop a habit that wastes 10 minutes of your life every single time you come in.
An unproductive habit that's now been involved in your everyday life.
And it's, where else do you let that happen?
No.
Right. And so that's where I'm a radical about that kind of stuff.
Well, that's not, I don't think that's radicalism. I think that's practicality. I think it goes back to that. Nobody has 75 hours a week to exercise. I mean, most people don't have 75 hours a week to exercise. So when you're developing a modality or a program or a practice, why waste even 1 minute of it doing something that's not bringing you closer towards your desired end result?
When I describe it as radical, I mean that the way I would go about handling that is radically different than the way that most people in a gym would.
Yeah.
Most people would walk by and be like, who cares? They're not hurting themselves. I'm like, oh, they're not? Let's talk about the ramifications of a 10-minute a day habit that does nothing for them except waste their time.
Yeah.
And then evaluate their life for how many of those they have. Are you telling me it's not a big deal that they waste 3 hours a day of their life?
Unless they just enjoy it. It's like a nice peaceful time for them. Unless they just enjoy it, then I guess it's not a total waste of time. If they're sitting there thinking it's doing something, then
as
it's
long as they
different.
know.
Yeah,
As long as
exactly.
they know. Like the example I like to give online, and I know that you guys will like that I dove into the dirty jokes thing with you. I'm like, that's like jerking off every day and hoping to have a baby. Like it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
So
well, except with the new Ecto Life chambers that they have, that they're did you see that?
No.
Look up Ecto Life. It literally looks like the Matrix. These pods they're growing babies in for couples who are not fertile, but it's still their biological child, and it literally looks like when fucking Neo unplugs his head in these pods. I'm like, do people think there's just no negative consequence? Anyway, look up Ecto Life. Shoot me in the face now. I'm still waiting for that meteor to hit me.
Sean, you'll have to excuse Jimmy. He's been in a little bit of a funk lately, and I think it's probably because he read the post about functional versus practical, and now all of his videos of him back squatting 225 for slow reps are meaningless.
now he's demeaning himself every time he talks about.
Yeah, and then I got to burn down my garage back here. You know, it's ridiculous.
No, but I think there's a lot of value in having these types of discussions, because when most people that are looking for any type of physical achievement are looking at the wrong people and asking the wrong questions.
Yeah.
Like they're viewing people that have large audiences. They're viewing people who equate large audiences to large amounts of knowledge and wisdom and thought-provoking things, and then they're also then following up those types of accounts with the wrong questions.
Yeah.
And talk about, I'd like to get your viewpoint on, if you're an average person who's looking for something like body composition improvement, what types of questions should you be asking? How do you vet a professional properly?
Well, let me start by saying that there's no correlation to followers on Instagram and acumen. None at all. There are some people with millions of followers who are exceptional. And there are some people with millions of followers who are dog shit. And there are people with no followers at all who are world class. Yeah. And there are people with no followers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And there are people with no followers who shouldn't be followed. Right? Like that's just the reality.
This is very cheap to buy, folks. Anybody can get one.
Right. What are the questions that
he was pointing out his microphone for the people listening. Nobody knows. Go ahead.
It's okay. The question was what questions should people ask about what?
Most people, and I'm generalizing obviously, but body composition is on the forefront of most people's minds. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to, like, you look like somebody who works out. How do I get there?
Right. So what question should they ask?
Yeah.
They should start with, I want to achieve a body composition that is both healthy and high performing for the rest of my life. So what is one habit that I have that I need to eliminate? And what is one habit that I don't have that I need to add? That's where I would ask people to start, because most people jump right to the exercise, and that's the last thing. That's the icing on the cake. This happens in the corporate wellness space a lot. These businesses have corporate wellness in their business, thousands of employees, hundreds of thousands of insured, and the least healthy people are always the least healthy people. They don't get any better, even though they have this corporate wellness offering that's fitness and nutrition. The reason? Those people are not lacking wellness and fitness and nutrition more than they are lacking wellness in mental health, relationship health, financial acumen, all of these kinds of things. So they're not ready to start thinking about fitness and nutrition until they overcome the other issues that they're dealing with in their life. Then they can start thinking about fitness and nutrition. I believe that our beliefs become our thoughts become our language becomes our actions, and our actions become our habits. And so we need to start looking top down. What are the habits I have? How do I start to eliminate them? And that's going to lead to, you got to talk to yourself differently. You got to think differently. You got to surround yourself with different people. Your beliefs are going to change. And you're going to find yourself exercising by accident.
Yeah. And then the learning curve behind that is a scary thought for a lot of people.
Well, I think and that's what we talked about earlier.
The top step.
Yeah, like finding that person to help you move. Like maybe CrossFit isn't the best thing for you to jump into if you've never moved through basic movement patterns. So that's that starting point. It's not if you're new, find somebody who can teach you to get through these movement patterns. Find somebody who can write you a program that's progressive in nature. Kind of just get that ball rolling as an individual who's trying to get the body composition.
So there's I'll go to both ends of the spectrum. The best and the fastest way is to find a professional who's going to help you do it.
Yeah.
And the way to think about who's the best professional to help me do it, ask them questions about who shouldn't work with them, ask them to speak with people who you have said yes to, ask them to speak with people you have said no to, ask them how they're going to do, like interview them like you're giving them a job, because you are. And then expect to pay a lot of money. That's side A. Now let's say side B is I don't have a lot of money. How do I get it? The best people in the world are putting out content for free. And they're giving you a ton of it. Unfollow everybody else. Pick one. Pick one. And just follow one. Let that person mentor you for free by not allowing other voices into your head that question what you're learning from this person, because you need the context before you can vet the other inputs. So just get it from one person. Do a year of it.
Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people because I think a lot of people need that confirmation bias. I mean, I had a person reach out to me today who was a coach for another team of coaches who's looking for a coach because she has a coach who she's not happy with. And first question I asked her is, why me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you not getting the help you need? Are you not equipped with the right answers? She's like, no, I just want a different approach. I'm like, why do you want different? Don't you want better?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I do want better. I said, no, you said you want different. Different and better are two different sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
And after 35 minutes of that back and forth, it was, okay, let me get back to you. And I have to do some thinking about this. But like most people are just going to be like, okay, well, I just want something different because it's going to keep me more engaged mentally. And I think there has to be some enjoyability factor to whatever you're doing, or else you're not going to be able to sustain it. But let's be realistic, Sean. It's not always enjoyable to live this type of a lifestyle.
No, it's not enjoyable to live any kind of a lifestyle all the time. But when you're speaking to
I don't know. I wouldn't mind being that dude that, what's his name? Dan Bilzerian.
I knew you were going to say Dan Bilzerian. I promise you that guy's alone at night. Like in his
I'm sure he is, but when he's not alone.
I don't think I could do it for more than 2 days.
Yeah,
but that's fine. That's all I would need. Then I would just kill myself after.
The meteor's coming tomorrow. Go now. Go.
But what you were speaking to is understanding that this person is going to cancel you when they want something different again.
Correct.
And helping them understand that.
Yeah. No. Well, and there's also been a number of times in my career where I've had people who are just constantly seeking novelty because novelty is what they've been promised by this industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
call it the ice cream shop.
Yeah. Now
what is it? The ice cream shop?
Yeah. You get like fitness is an ice cream shop. Yeah. You go into the fitness store and you're like, can I try vanilla today? Can I try your chocolate? Oh, that's really good. What about your oatmeal cookie? And you don't buy the same flavor every time you go in. But you get the same outcome. It tastes good.
Diarrhea.
It was diarrhea.
Lactose intolerance.
A little bit of mouth porn.
Yeah.
But it didn't. There's nothing unique about it. And if the ice cream shop down the block charges double, it better be 10 times as good.
Yeah.
So fitness, like ice cream, gets commoditized. And that's why we sell steak.
I like it. This, I mean, we could probably talk about stuff forever. I don't want to take up more of your time. I think
this is the cheapest deal ever be. We got to keep them on.
I know I think there's a lot of food for thought for coaches out there for them to really figure out who they can best serve. I think there's a lot of food for thought for the potential client out there feeling potentially maybe stuck or confused or sore all the time. And what is the best thing? Start asking some better questions, look around, shop around, and figure out what your goals are and ask the right questions, or start learning how to ask the right questions. But what's the best way for, I mean, obviously you're a local place, so people in Long Beach can look you up. But
They can
if
find
people,
everything at Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram.
Dr.
So
Sean Pastuch, that's SEAN. Well, then
Yeah.
it'll be in the
yeah,
show notes. Or
I
whatever they're
I used to direct people to each of the different. Just go there.
called. Yeah.
You can find everything you need from there.
Yeah. If there's a coach or a gym out there that is wanting to learn what you offer to get them to be able to follow, your system, what's the best place for them to look through there? Just reach out to you through your
Just hit
IG.
me up. Yep.
All right.
I'll
Love
get
it.
you to the right place.
Wait, you're a real person? You answer DMs?
All of them.
All right. So you just got one more follower. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I've been sending him your stuff for a while now. He decides to follow now after he talks to you and got a free coaching session from you on his
That's it.
business model.
That's it.
Piece of shit.
I
He's
wasn't
such a
sold.
piece
I
of
wasn't
shit.
fucking sold yet. Fuck you. I'm
He's
not
a
gonna sit.
piece of
I
shit.
want to be able to drink a couple of quarts of milk for free before I milk the bastard.
He's like, so then how do I close the person? Explain.
No, now that I've gotten the 30,000-foot view of your coaching model, I'm totally going to run with it. I'm going to name it something similar to yours, and we'll see each other at the conference.
Yeah. Well, no, I loved talking to you. This is exactly why. I mean, you're somebody to me I looked at and saw everything that you've been doing over the last couple of years, and you talk the talk, you walk the walk, you have a higher standard than the average person in this industry that's out there, as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that we have a mutual friend makes it even cooler. So it was great meeting you, man. I really appreciate your time. And I apologize for Aram stealing a free coaching session from you, but I think it was worth it for everybody.
I threw that out there.
That was great.
I hope it landed well.
I think it's great for
No, it did.
everybody. I think even the conversation talking about that, I think it's great for coaches to be able to do better maybe with an onboarding process. I think it's great for clients to be able to listen to and go, oh shit, I got to start asking myself questions, because things really fall on me, not the coach, with all this stuff. So we appreciate it, man. And as always, we end with an incredibly awkward bye.